In the elective course of educational psychology, we are dealing with Block 4, Education in the Indian Context. And we have studied about the curriculum and the diversified nature of learners and how curriculum should be enable all the learners in any system to study well. Also, we have studied something about stress and anxiety in schools, the various stresses that are being seen in the schools and how one can overcome all these stressors and the role of the psychologists as well as the parents and peers, and how the school also is a place where there is bullying, much of stress and also academic stress. And also it is a place where the children try to socialize. And when socialization occurs between the peers of who come from various socioeconomic backgrounds, it is possible that there is different types of interactions occurring. And these may also result in the growth of the child and also in the positive influence as well as the negative influence on any child. Now, we have also seen that this stress must be, can be reduced by having proper counseling from the teachers, students, and the management, and how the stress busters can help, and how the children have to be taught about coping with stress. We know that if stress is unchecked, it will lead to lots of problems, personality disorders, and also that they also may lead to suicidal ideation. And this is the reason that the many students or many teenagers in India are increasingly considering suicide as an option, which is not actually good from the nature of the individual or from the notion that we should have a healthy society. Now here, we know that the anxiety is seen in everyone, but one should know the symptoms of the anxiety, the causes of the anxiety, and how to overcome the anxiety. And it is here we grown-ups can help the children or the teenagers to come over all these problems by helping them to understand the various factors which cause stress, as well as help them to reduce their anxiety levels and live life as full individuals. Now, coming to the special issues of education in India, which we'll be dealing with today, we have learned already that educare means, or educatum or educo means, educare means actually to bring up or to rise or to actually nourish. We also mean bringing out the inner potentialities of the child and to train and mold the child's behavior. That is actually drawing out of the inner potential of the child. Now, this is something which is there from the outside. Educator means which is something from outside is being imposed so that the external growth of the child through various activities can be developed and provide various experiences to the child so that through either curricular, extracurricular, or co-curricular activities, so the child is able to involve themselves and train their inner potential. So here, the child is being led to a particular goal, and in this case, what we call knowledge, and therefore it is known as educare. Now, we know that the education aim is to draw out the best in the child and lead a life full of potential, or to bring out the best potential in him. Now, the importance of education is that, as Nelson Mandela rightly pointed out, education is a weapon, a very powerful weapon in the hands of the human beings. Now, who can remove either ignorance and unemployment and what we call corruption and environmental problems, at the same time find a meaningful existence in the nature or in the world. Now, the living standards of citizens are divided by the level of education they have in a country. And because education develops skills, attitudes, interests, aptitudes among the people, we think that education must be given to everyone. Education is a fundamental right. Therefore, education helps in both the personal as well as national development. Now, nowadays, education, because of the commercial attitude of the institutions, it is now considered as a commodity or good. Now, the consumerism, the concept of education has changed from a quantity which matters not, but the quality of the education is important. But now it is only the quantity that is seen. The emergence of technology also has changed the face of the education. We know that there is a shift in the attitude of the teachers as well as the children. There are a number of ways to acquire knowledge and information nowadays, and the teacher is only a facilitator, that is, who actually tries to facilitate or make convenient for the student to learn something. So all the information is there in the world, is seen either on a internet or in a computer, and therefore the child can make use of this knowledge, and therefore technology has been changing the face of the education. Now, changing the role of the teachers and students, this has also brought in so many dilemmas, and the dynamic society, we find lots of confusion about what to teach, how to teach, and we find lots of conflict in the ideas and chaos, unrest, and it's also displeasure from both the students and parents on the way that education is being taken care of now. Now, also we find that the education has become a major stress by itself, and the mental health of the students also have been suffering. Now, if the problems actually, or which are causing the psychological issues in the children or teenagers, are there fundamentally lying in the societal attitudes, and the Indian educational system also harbors several of these problems, which are in turn affecting the children. The faulty educational system is the family also takes part in the education of the child, and the parents actually find fault with the children when there are less grades, less marks, less scores, and the curriculum is prepared with little foresight, and always the children are engaged with what we call with the very low order learning skills, that is either which are based mostly on rote memory rather than developing the analyzing skills or synthesizing skills or reasoning skills or comprehension skills or application skills and evaluation skills, either in languages or mathematics or sciences. And this increases actually a sort of flock mentality. That is, everybody studies in the same way, and there's no difference between children, and all tend to study in the same manner, having the same ideas, and there is no scope for creativity. Also, we find that in the schools that there is very little chance for the students to learn on their own, and there is very little practical experience. Even the practicals are not taught in a proper manner, and the student does not have enough hands-on experience, and they have a lot of difficulty in understanding the gap between what they're taught in the class as well as what they see outside. So there is lots of gap between theory as well as practice, and they do not have much scope to learn about the real world experiences or develop critical thinking skills. Now, this is the education system is lacking what we call the practical aspect, and it is more theoretical in nature. Also, the teachers or educators are not finely equipped with knowledge nor with skills, and somehow the poor quality of educators and teachers also affect, especially if teachers, the teaching has become the last option for anyone. That is, if they do not get a seat either in medicine or engineering or law or nursing, then they prefer to go for education. This means that not much of very creative or intelligent persons are opting for teaching profession, and therefore the teachers do not have enough skills or knowledge or what we call an in-depth perception about the subject, what they teach, and therefore the poor quality automatically results in poor teaching in the classroom. Also, we find that the colleges and government schools do not have the minimum classrooms and infrastructural facilities. They try to assemble lots of students in a small room, and here the teaching is also becomes cumbersome, and the the stuffy rooms also give scope for the children not to learn much. There's no much breathing space, and also there is dearth of faculty. Really started with the idea of having playgrounds, nor faculty, nor good labs or libraries, and this in turn affects the education of the child. Also, when we consider that there is much focus of the teachers on or the management of the school to develop somewhat cramped with only these subject matter, and there is no scope for either sports or arts or aesthetic developmental activities, and therefore neither the moral nor ethical values are developed in the children. So it becomes a rat race right from the childhood to excel each other by either hook or crook manner, and also they are actually forced to copy and all these sort of things, which actually do not help in the growth of the inner personality. So neither the importance is given for the inner personality development, nor developing the ethical skills, nor do the children are given any idea how to live peacefully, purposefully, and with contentment in life. These are some of the problems that are seen in the schools. Also, it so happens that the teaching sector or the budget allotted by the government or the government schools is so less that they lack funds for the development of the institutions. And even if they get the funds, there is mismanagement of the funds. Now, lack of funds means there will be little less infrastructure. And this would mean that the child is now obstructed or hampered in his education. He is not provided all the facilities with which you would have better learning. Also, the problem of brain drain is there. If someone is intelligent in any field, say teaching comes in from many fields, most of the persons who fare well in life and who get educated, they go out of the country, and this is known as the brain drain. And here all the doctors and engineers are migrating to other countries like USA and Canada. This is a long-term problem, and they render their services there. And this is because they receive their more higher salaries and recognition for their talent and merit. And there is no reservation system or regionalism or caste system prevalent in other countries compared to India. And therefore, we find that the problem of brain drain also has affected the quality of the what we call the curriculum or the learning experiences in the school system of India. We find that there is wastage of resources also. We find that there is misuse of material and human resources in education, and there is wastage of resources means there is inefficient use of the resources. The problem with the primary education is all this lack of infrastructure, lack of proper administration management, and the lack of education of girls, and poor quality of teachers, lack of professional commitment among teachers, and also lack of parental education, poverty are some of the major reasons of primary institutions. We find lack of the education in the children. Sometimes we find the reservation system is not benevolent, and it is not benefactory to most of the students, not beneficial. And we find that the underprivileged all do not get a chance of the reservation, and the socially discriminated population, the first generation learners, especially who are learning for the first time and who come from poor family backgrounds, they do not get enough support in the school system. So we have to see that the reservation system is introduced in students who have to make up on par with other community members and who are disadvantaged, so that the benefits will be given to all. Now, coming to the right to education, we have called RT or right to education from in August 2009. That is a fundamental right of the students to get education from 6 to 14 years. But still we know that most of the parents do not send their children to the school, and they deprive their children and from their fundamental right because they suffer from poverty, and also they do not have enough economical resources so that they can send their child to the school, and therefore we find they involve their children in child labor. And due to lack of family planning with large number of children, they have to either move from place to place or migrate or send their children as child labor in any of the farming or the industry sectors. Now, we find that in spite of the gradual importance given to girl education, we find that most of the girls are not involved in the school system. And we find that the free universal education system has not benefited many girls because due to illiteracy among parents or gender inequalities existing, or the phobias regarding the girl-child education, or the prevalent custom of child marriages, and poor infrastructural facilities. Regarding the poor, what we call child marriages, we know that there has been increase in the child marriages during Corona times, and most of the times we find that due to COVID pandemic, most of the children, instead of going to school, they were getting married off. So this shows that the parents are not interested in getting their girl child educated, and lack of water facilities or toilets or other infrastructure has made the parents reluctant to send their children, girl children, to school. Sometimes the schools are located far away, making it hazardous for the girl child to go to schools. All these factors have also affected the girl child education. Also, there are faulty educational policies. The policies are changed time to time, keeping in some due to either political pressure or due to some other inadvertent reasons. We find that when the policies change, they do not take into consideration the effect of their policies, what they would bring effect, how they would affect the poor and disadvantaged sections of the society. So without proper foresight, they become impractical, all the policies, and they become difficult to implement. So with such policies are framed, and when there is no foresight, it is obvious that most of these policies do not benefit the families who come from marginalized or poor sections. Also, we find that in spite of many efforts from the first planning commission itself, that most of the time, that most of the education does not provide for any skill education or vocational education. When we know that there is more emphasis on general education, it is possible that these people who get education are not equipped with any skills, and therefore they will not be able to procure any job. And therefore, we find that the students stop this general education and go up to the schools, and they have no scope for vocational education, and also they cannot become self-dependent. So most of the large sections of the population become unskilled and unemployed. Also, we find that there is very much less research done with regard to the education, the schools, how they are faring, and there is no critical analysis about analyzing what are the problems that are existing in education and how to overcome them, and how we can beneficially use all our existing resources for the development of the education, as well as the development of the underprivileged or marginalized or general sections of the society. Also, most of the time we find that there is much of a political interference, and when education is met with political interference, we find that the policies are not adequately implemented, nor are they thought of, and therefore it becomes a disadvantage to the whole society. We also find that most of the time the curriculum or the syllabus is outdated, and it does not try to give a focus of the things that are there in the world, and therefore the children become outdated in their knowledge or in the several aspects, and therefore they are not ready and not enough worldly, nor they have enough skills or enough technology to deal with the current or practical aspects which they face on day-to-day basis. Now, another aspect is most of the educational system is being ridden with practical or what we call private schools. And this is because there has been much increase in the private schools when compared to government schools. This is because of the consumeristic attitudes that are there. And consumerism is the social and economic order which encourages the purchase of goods and services to the person who offers the greatest amount. Now, this means that the interests of the consumers or the protection of the consumers is not there. And when it is offered to, the goods reach only those people who can afford to pay the higher price. This means the products are manufactured and sold according to the requirements, and that means they are cut, molded, and given to the consumers in the form that they would appreciate. And this would mean that there is neither adequate foresight nor a willingness to understand the situation and benefit the learners. So economy is judged here by the production and selling of the goods. Now, when compared to the consumerism in education, this means it's a commodity like any other goods. There is a competition to provide the best commodity, best goods, best services in education. And therefore, many private and corporate institutions are competing and hiring students. The best example is, we know the Kota hub in Rajasthan, which tries to teach out to IIT JEE students. Now here the private institutions are brand marketed with the support of power and fame. So now when we consider the Bansal Institute of in Kota, that has triggered a change in the economy of Kota due to increase in restaurants and hotels and what we call paying guest houses and bookshops and everything. Now, one institute could make such a large change, and therefore, whenever there is consumerism in education, it would mean it is offered at a higher price, and a normal person would not have access to education. Now, consumerism in education views education as a commodity. Now, once upon a time, it was thought as a service or an individual quality. Now it is become a commodity, and this functions solely on the demand of the students. Now, such sort of education does not give rise to intellectual or personal growth. Now, with such consumeristic attitudes in mind, you cannot expect personality development in the children. Universities and colleges do advertise about their infrastructural facilities, ranking, and also alumni association placement records to attract the students. And for all these costs, they collect from the students a higher fee. What are the effects of consumerism on education? We know that number of people getting education are increasing, but the quality of education has gradually been decreasing. So we find that the prosperity of the nation is dependent on the per capita income of the individuals. If people are purchasing education, the economy of the country is also good. But the problem is there's more propaganda and advertisement to attract students. Therefore, increase in educational institutions to get employment opportunities are very less. And people have a choice to choose according to their capability to spend. And therefore, who have money can have education, and those who have no money cannot get any education. That is the main, what we call impact of consumerism on education. There are negative effects of consumerism in education. The materialistic look in the people's attitudes and praying for goods, craving for goods, and having education means we have spent so much money in education, therefore we have to have the returns. Such a sort of attitude can mean that there will be no values in society. Demand for private and corporate schools means that the better quality, they provide better quality when compared to government schools, which do not have enough infrastructural facilities. So this has actually undermined the government schools. Of course, efforts are there in government schools to improve, but at the same time, when compared to private schools, they have always fared less. Crime rate also increases in society because everybody wants to get the best by hook or crook. Therefore, in the schools, you find political interference and also recommendations, and the goal of the people will be only to earn money, and therefore there will be no importance given to interpersonal relationships or to honesty, integrity, and other such qualities. So when people can afford to send their children to expensive schools, the local schools get demoted and they do not perform well. So due to this shift in the educational system, we find that the boarding schools, semi-residential schools, they will be encouraged. Now, if such schools are encouraged, this means they will be having different timetables, different curricula, and the duration of the study hours also will vary. And this will affect the mental health of the students because they have more strife in life, they are more anxious, and also they have to concentrate on education. And the preference will be given to the infrastructural facility now rather than the qualified teachers. Now there is a change in the attitude of the people. The wrong perception develops among the people that only private and corporate schools can be good for their children. And we also find accordingly, there will be certain lifestyle changes in the children. The children will have now no scope for games and sports because of the competitive attitude. And we find that the overall development of the children is affected, and they get, of course, the high scores by either, as we say, wrong means, or we find that there is individualism, etc. Now, the parents' expectations become more, and they feel as we have spent more money, we have to have more returns. That means the children's their parent, the effect of the parental expectations of children's will also have a negative effect on the children's health. The children become more focused on competitive attitudes, and their biological cycle gets disturbed, their mental health gets affected, they do not have normal sleep patterns, and also their mental health gets affected. They undergo stress, anxiety, and depression. And we also find they start losing their self-confidence, and their precious life hours are spent away in either competitive or in routine rote learning, and which actually can have an effect on the brain. And this actually brings a lot of long-term effects on the health of the individual. Now, India is a rich country originally, and we also had always, we have given importance in education to ethical and moral values. And we know we had a sound philosophy behind the Indian educational system. We always have emphasized on the total development of the child. That is, as Gandhiji says, we have to give importance to the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health of the individual. But here we find that none of these things happen, and all the qualities what we preach are important in life, like truth, beauty, peace, and also brotherhood, love, sympathy, equality, non-violence, forgiveness, and the aim of life is to have do some social service. All these educational aims are lost, the humane conditions are lost, and consumerism in education is replaced now, replaces all these qualities, and therefore they do not have neither sound philosophical basis nor a psychological. This automatically affects the psychological state of the people, students originally, and people in large. Now, these are the existing conditions. We find in India now a number of private schools and government schools trying to coexist, and they try to give the best, they work to their best of their ability, but these inherent problems which are there in the educational system are actually having a negative trend, and we find that the individuals are not able to grow as with full potential, and therefore they face several problems later in their lives. Also, the technology is the scientific application of knowledge to the practical purpose and to the betterment. We find technology has brought large number of changes in every field of the society, and education is no exception. Now, when we consider the technology with the pedagogical aspects or how we teach the children, we find certain advantages. The students, through the interactive mode in the internet or on the computers, they get motivated for learning. We know that learning can be now made more interesting through Google Maps. Geography can be learned through Google Maps. Simulation learning brings reality to the classrooms. Also, through virtual learning, they can learn a number of things. They can visualize a number of things. And through simulated learning and through technology, they can learn about dinosaurs, which are long last. They can see volcanic eruptions, which they cannot see with their own eyes. And the planetary movements can be seen, which they cannot obviously see. So, or try to find it on a daily basis. But now, all this can be seen. But when we see that the internet, the students can research real problems of the nation and the world. The whole knowledge comes at the fingertips. They can use software tools and can create online groups. They can have virtual communities and also create web pages, and they can share questions. If they have any doubts, they can ask, discuss, and also receive answers. They have online dictionaries, online videos. And through this, they can develop their thinking and develop a level of understanding with people around the world. So also the main problem is one can also actually develop interrelationships on the with other people in other countries, and they can have collaborative sort of learning along with their peers. Instead of giving more emphasis on the textbook, now the technology has helped to enhance group activities, discussions, debates within the group. So Here only the teacher becomes the facilitator, but they do not guide the students, but they train the students, and the problem solving occurs and decision making occurs. Also, we find that through technology, assessment is made easier, and also the student can get feedback, and therefore he gets the concept clarity and deep understanding about the subject. Now, most of the time, because they are fully involved, they do not get bored easily because they fall behind or not able to understand if they can try to check their knowledge. But the problem is, by having the internet or learning through technology, we also have some other problems. In a regular classroom, the children are passive learners. So with technology assists the learners actually with clippings and with concept clarity. And also they offer multiple sources for learning through websites, online tutorials, web links. And as parents are busy nowadays, parents can contact the teachers through emails or instant messaging and check on the performance of the students. The child can also do his projects through PPTs and also can upload assignments and join online courses, e-forms, e-textbooks, virtual labs, virtual fields, and they can save on energy as well as use of paper and save money. But the problem is, most of the time, all topics cannot be taught theoretically. So we require digital simulation also. We find that the advanced research means we can use internet, cloud storage, all this has helped research actually. So technology enables the students to learn at their own pace. One can go back and relearn, and the students can enjoy learning through different activities. And the world has become now a global village. Technology satisfies all the students' abilities, and here their auditory learning, their visual learning, and through movement one can learn. So that is known as kinesthetic learning can be developed. Now, there are certain disadvantages of technology, because we know that the technology, unless it cannot be used by a small child, so it is to be monitored. The children get distracted soon. They do not like to stick to the laptop or to the mobile. And here we find sometimes if they are at all, they become what we call habituated to internet or to mobile, they become addicted. And this means that they learn to cheat in the academics rather than learn something about something. They may also get disconnected with other human beings. They lose human touch, and they cannot differentiate between what is a reliable source and what is an unreliable source. So there is no way of fathoming whether whatever knowledge we are getting is true or not. So everybody cannot afford, again, technology. Even in technology, we find there are different apps, computer devices, applications, which need to be bought. And all these can be at the they can be had only by rich persons. And all these equipment are not possessed by the underprivileged. And this means that there will be unequal access to education. Also, sometimes because of more use of technology, we find there arise certain health problems like neck pain, spinal pain, hand pain, eye pain, mental fatigue, and blurred vision. Increase due to much use of electronic gadgets can result in all these problems. The children actually will have problem with visualization of the content, and also because he's erected most of the time to the net, even his mental health gets affected. So when we see that there's more focus on the screen, we find that the student ability to grasp and also to memorize the content or to recall the content is also less, and there's much dependency on seeing only on the net. And we find that there is overall negative impact on the skill development of the child. Also because the human touch is lost, and they are dependent mostly on the already created content. They have a lack of access to human interrelationships, and this means they become more remote or more asocial. Also, we find that the technology has increasingly affected the mental health of the children. We know that most of the time when people were working online during these corona times, it has had a severe impact on the mental health of the individuals. Now, mental health is a state of well-being where the individual realizes his potential and copes up with the normal life, and he's happy with his setting. And he works productively and fruitfully to contribute to the society. Now, WHO says mental health is a complete stage where there is physical, mental, and social well-being, and there is no disease. Generally, we talk of physical health and neglect the mental health, which is very important from every aspect. Now, we know how we feel, how we think, how we react to people, how we handle stress, how we inspire others, and how we make choices of life. All these are dependent on the mental health. So the emotional, psychological, and social well-being is also important. And the mental health of the children should be developed right from the teenage. And here we find that the positive image or the self-image or self-worthiness and self-concept, self-esteem, these are very important for the overall development of the individual, and a feeling of psychological security, having good levels of confidence and trying to maintain relationships with other people, and also see that there is less substance abuse or addiction or poor nutrition or not much effect due to other peers or mass media or technology, then there is no damage to their well-being, then all this means that there should be proper use of technology, and it should not overwhelm the students. The technology, of course, has many advantages. It helps us to connect and interact and communicate and clarify our doubts and also improve productivity. But when we use it beyond a particular limit, it means it is giving somewhat stress, loneliness, and anxiety among the individuals. And also sometimes it is leading to depression. We know that during the recent times, it was felt that the what we call the net, especially the Facebook, was creating problems among teenagers, also inducing them to go for suicides. Now, this is because over dependency or looking for applause from friends and also trying to affect the others and seeing that they get appreciation from their fellow beings or peers. This has affected how they were not able to take the criticism, and the teenagers become very much dependent on others' perceptions of themselves rather than the realistic perceptions. Now, this has led to the depression among the teenagers. Now, Duke University research has found that the adolescents express more conduct problems. They do not know how to behave in the society, and also they have shown ADHD symptoms, which is a sort of stress symptom. And then also we find a Michigan study has found out that the book usage in people has decreased because of the addiction to the net, and the overall happiness or satisfaction in life has decreased. And we have found that the heavy usage of cell phones can lead to depression. An Australian study has shown that using a high level of internet can lead to mental health problems. Other universities, studies have shown that internet, if you try to withdraw from it, or from the WhatsApp you try to withdraw, there is a psychological sense of withdrawal. Now, it means that sound mental health is a bit difficult in digital age, and therefore one should be conscious. And this means we should understand the concept of digital hygiene. What is digital hygiene? We should balance technology with non-technical activities. These would mean playing games or having other school works, drawing, painting, or involving in oneself in arts, and spending a day without a phone or technology, spending with family, or spending in a park, or having picnics, or visiting friends or relatives, or zoos, and also doing some gardening work, or going to the planetarium, etc. Now, avoiding technology in bedroom is always advised, because radiation may interfere with your sleep too. And the use of tablets, video games, cell phones in the bedroom should be avoided by the parents or by the individuals. Now, participating in open communication during tea time, dinner time, and weekends with family for emotional health is also important. Also, we know that when one practices the digital communication, they should also learn the digital etiquette. That is saying thank you, please, and also feeling connected with people, and also see that they're teaching the children not to respond to anger, or if somebody makes a comment on some message, they do not react violently, and teaching them to be digitally safe. This is because when we know that many children are getting involved or trafficked or getting involved in some other side games or getting addicted because of the to several unsafe drugs because of the digital platform, and therefore digital safety has to be ensured, that the parents also should see that the wards of the children do not share personal information on the phone, and they should not meet a person alone with whom they have made contact or friendship on the computer or cell phone. Now, this means they have to have the basic understanding of the safety or use of computers, internet, and mobiles. And therefore, the teachers or parents also should be able to teach them about the digital safety. It is essential to understand that the children that when they feel lonely, they should be able to talk out to their parents and also say how they can be helped. So an open sort of communication should develop between the parents and the children. When we consider the mental health aspect in the Indian educational institutions, we find that infancy, childhood, and adolescence are the most important stages of development in the children. We know that all the physical, mental, emotional, social aspects of the children are developed during these stages. So every family and every institution at this stage finds that the children's physical and mental health gets affected during teens or during their adolescence. Now, educational institutions are the learning centers. They provide knowledge, develop skills, attitudes, interests, and also develop a wholesome personality. But unfortunately, in India, people do not recognize that mental problems are also problems. The importance of mental health is also very important, but people give importance mostly to physical health, and they do not consider that the lack of mental health would mean lack of development of the child, and therefore he would not be able to fare educationally, nor socially, nor his in occupational aspect. Therefore, the educational institution should see and understand. They should provide them with basic counselors. Their mental health care practices should be developed in the school. The management training, the counseling centers, the teachers should be adequate. They should have adequate skills to deal with these problems. And we should also see that the self-care schedule or yoga is incorporated in the school system for all the mental health well-being of the students. According to the WHO, suicidal rate in India is around 16.4% per 1 lakh of women, which is the sixth highest in the world, and 25.8% in men, which is 22nd in the world. This means the Indian teens or the adults are getting increasingly they are conducting suicides, and this would mean that the India share in the world population itself is an indicator of the reasons or the academic the strife that one is having, as well as the mental health issues they are having. Now, these mental health issues in educational institutions are seen. The major reasons would be, one is there is an impractical curriculum where the needs of the children are not being met by the educational institution. Also, we find the ineffective faculty who do not have a complete grasp of their own role, that of the educational institutions, as well as the children's needs and the societal effect and the parental queries. Now, this means they cannot neither teach effectively, nor they have the enough training to deal with the situation. Also, the poverty of the parents means they are not able to understand. They are somewhat they are affected by the societal concept of the development, and therefore they're not interested in the inner personal growth of the child. They have more expectations actually, and we find the institution and teachers also are forced in turn to cater to the demands of the parents, and therefore all of them totally see that there is more importance given to ranks and ranks, good marks and scores. This also would mean there's a lack of proper educational guidance, and the failure in examination means that is completely life is lost, or the failure would mean loss of failure and get a rank means that the child is now has no scope or potential to get on with life. Now, this inability to cope with failures means that the child will automatically try to think of suicides as one of the solutions. Now, lack of support systems. When there is extreme frustration or helplessness in the child, he does not know whom to approach, and he feels lack of time and lack of professionals, as well as lack of how to manage one's own time, or lack of knowledge or skills, or how to actually he help himself or herself. This would mean this would develop a sort of a vicious cycle where he's not able to gain any support from the system, that is parents or teachers. And with this helplessness, the student is considering several ways to get out of the system. And we also know that the commercial educational institutions are striving for unrealistic goals, because a student could achieve only something in a particular period of time, and there are limits to one's potential to reach excellence. But here, the parental force as well as the educational institutions trying to be competitive, they have led to such a situation where the child becomes unhappy and very anxious. And because a child cannot share or openly communicate with his family, then there exists poor relationship, and where there is no time to spare, or when there is poor understanding between the family members as well as the children, we find that most of the time this would drive the children for suicide. Also, there is higher rates of depression existing in the society, especially from those families who come from disadvantaged families. These disadvantaged families, they invest lots of money, whatever their daily meager savings in educational system, and therefore they put on more pressure on their children. And these children who do not be, sometimes who come from the first families who have come into the field of education, first generation learners, they are not able to grasp this education, and knowing the parental pressure, they again feel depressed and they go into suicides. Also, we see that there is no much scope given in teacher education curriculum about these aspects, the mental health, and we find that there is also hesitation among the counselors, among the students, to go to counselors or for any psychological help. Now, internationally, many countries have paid importance to the physical and mental health. That is why we find countries, Nordic countries, that is Norway, and what we call Denmark and other Sweden, these countries have given much importance to the mental health, and they are given their activities, school activities get interspersed with plays and other things. There's not much stress in education. Sometimes the education is only for about 4 to 5 hours given, and much scope is given for the children to learn on their own. And this mental health is given increasing importance, so that they would become the full healthy individuals there, rather than depressed and downbound and unhealthy individuals with lack of exercise. And we know that the educational institutions also, there should be awareness to cope up with the children with either stress or anxiety, and gradual, what we call the curriculum should be gradually built into day-to-day activities, so that there is no much stress built at one point of time. Also in 2017, the Mental Health Act was formed, now which provides mental health guidelines and services to persons with mental illness, and to protect, promote and fulfill the rights of such individuals. And we know that there are better mental health services now, but most of the educational institutions are not provided any guidelines on how to treat with the strife or the stress, and how to deal with mental health issues, and also how to cater to development of the mental health. Now, the need of the hour is all the teachers or counselors of the educational system has to take into consideration on the mental health aspect. We know that the academic stress is caused by mental distress. Now, if academic failure can lead to academic stress, that would mean the children have to face with the parental expectations, teachers' expectations, peer pressures, examinations, grades, assignments, other challenges like homework, and also they have fears and phobias inside their small brains, because they have not seen much and they do not know whom to approach, how to approach, and all these stresses can lead to nervousness, fear, anxiety, and depression, which in turn affect their academic performance. So now overstressed children suffer from ill health and they cannot overcome these problems. And without proper planning, organization, and time management and scheduling and other foresights and deciding on their priorities, that is, they have to know whether to see a movie or to learn something or to do assignments. They have to learn the skill of time management. All these are not learned in a single day, but they have to be gradually incorporated in them by the teachers or the counselors or the school system. Otherwise, we know that there is depression and suicide rates will go on increasing, as has been. We have seen the last 3-4 years too, they have increased. And this would mean that their psychological environment is interfering with their working, studying, and sleeping and eating disorders. And this will have long-time effects on the individuals as well as on the societal well-being. Now, we have to see that the reasons for depression is either lack of sleep, lack of good food, lack of more of anxiety and more of stress. Now, how can we improve the mental health at schools? Now, at the education institutions, the curriculum should be properly planned, be practical, and give importance to the inner abilities of the children. Also, the family should see that they do not have untoward expectations towards the children, and all the expenses of the education are met by them, and therefore they feel they have the right to actually make the children ponder about the what we call lack of on their failure or not being able to much fare in the schools. So the parental pressure is one thing where the parents have to be taught by the administration that they should have realistic expectations of their children. And also the faculty should have subject experts as well as counselors who know both the art of teaching as well as the psychology of the learners. We should also see in the home that there are conversations, that is meaningful conversations related to mental health and also the health of the students. We should develop a consciousness of the persons, that is, we have to see that we are aware of the present moment and accept what our feelings are there, what our thoughts are there. That is, we should be mindful of our thoughts. And if they're going in a negative way, we should control ourselves and develop positive thoughts. Such sort of mindfulness should be developed in the children by the parents as well as the teachers. The teachers also should tell the children that success and failure are a part of life, and we always have alternative choices in life as well as career. They should be made that a healthy individual is more important than a depressed and suicidal child. And we should see, actually, all the teachers and counselors should see that the children who are weak or require help or support are given enough help or support. And we have to see that the parental attitudes or the societal attitudes are also gradually changed. That is, one should actually help the family also to develop an awareness. And once in a while, parental teacher meetings also should see that there is enough consciousness among the parents, realistic expectations on their children, and how mental health also becomes an important concept in the development of the child. Also, we should develop, a school should develop especially the guidance and counseling centers in the educational institutions, and practicing yoga or meditation, or giving scope for games and the sports in the school, and extracurricular activities as relief measures can also be given importance. Now, with this, we understand that India, with all its diverse conditions and with various amalgam of cultures, also is a hotbed of strife and stress, and there are expectations on parents and society on the children, and this actually becomes a burden on the child, and this will become a stressor, and in turn will make the child either feel depressed or develop anxiousness, and anxiousness can result in depression. Sometimes there is parental fear, and all these can actually bring havoc on the child, and this will actually curtail the development of the child as a full individual, fully grown individual with all the abilities. So When we talk about education, we are talking about the gradual upbringing or leading off of the child and developing the inner potential, but there is no such scope. And therefore, we have battered individuals, depressed individuals, and such individuals who have no inclination for education or for development of their own self, and they are unhappy. And such persons can cause problems to society, as well as they become untrustworthy individuals who cannot give anything to society. So we educational system which contributes to the well-being of the students, that to the mental health of the students, can in long term reap more benefits than a society which is competitive ridden, or which gives more importance to marks, or which does not give any scope for the development of the inner potential of the child. So our system is ridden with these problems. So we as educational psychologists or teachers must be aware of such problems. And whenever we come across these, we should try to dispel all the wrong ideas and see that the health of the individual is more important, and there should be good curriculum or a good way of bringing about the curriculum, and importance should be given to both curricular as well as extracurricular activities. In the next class, we'll be dealing with guidance and counseling. Thank you.